The Russian army suddenly received a terrifying mission, deploying 100,000 troops, even urgently recalling veterans who had been retired for years. Surveillance radar showed a large number of unknown creatures appearing in the dark forest, rapidly approaching them at a speed of 40 meters per second. All soldiers were fully on alert, as if facing a formidable enemy. Even the six-barreled artillery immediately activated its automatic firing mode. However, after all the soldiers were deployed, Major Dolmatov put on his glasses to scan, only to find there was nothing in the forest. But the soldiers beside him were convinced there was something terrifying because the base alarm wouldn't go off for no reason. The soldiers lay cautiously on the defensive line, every gun's infrared aiming firmly at the opposite forest, not daring to relax in the slightest. Just then, the command center detected again that the enemy was approaching continuously from 3 kilometers away. Their size far exceeded that of ordinary humans, and they carried extremely strong electromagnetic radiation. As soon as these words fell, the base light suddenly went out due to interference. Everyone was nervously at a loss, except for a fearless dog that bravely rushed into the forest. Major Dolmatov quickly fired a flare into the sky, but when the light faded, there was still nothing. At this moment, the command center suddenly alerted that the targets were close and charging madly. Scared, Major Dolmatov hurriedly fired another flare. Immediately, a heart-wrenching howl of the dog came from the forest, with the target less than 150 meters away. Still no movement was detected ahead. In the next second, countless machine guns and cannons opened fire, shredding the enemies into pieces. However, despite the dense firepower, human soldiers could not withstand the monsters breaking through the strongest defense line. The battle lasted all night. When a surviving soldier woke up, he found himself pinned down by a giant creature. His comrades, seeing he was still alive, immediately started a crane for rescue. Only when the creature was lifted did he see it was a massive brown bear. Although the soldiers held the base after a night of fierce fighting, they paid a heavy price. From a distance, the base's defensive line was built into a high wall of brown bear corpses. What had happened to cause these brown bears to suddenly attack the outpost base? Not long ago, a passenger plane bound for Paris suddenly lost power, and everyone on board lost consciousness. The plane plummeted from an altitude of 10,000 meters. Following this, the city's lights instantly went out. In the next second, the entire Earth's power system suddenly collapsed, plunging into darkness. Only a small part of the world remained unaffected, and this place was Moscow. However, in the calm of the night, this mechanized city suddenly sounded alarms, but no one knew what had happened. Oleg and Alyona saw the news reports. Due to the external power outage, Moscow had lost contact with the rest of the world. Communication equipment worldwide had all failed, and people were plunged into extreme panic. The military immediately dispatched a reconnaissance team, rushing to the blackout areas to carry out the reconnaissance mission. The team soon arrived at a nearby small town, where not a single soul was seen. When the reconnaissance team entered a supermarket, a team member attached a piece of gel to the wall. The next second, the hall was instantly illuminated with a blinding light. But what came into view were corpses lying haphazardly. Strangely, none of the bodies showed signs of attack. Originally, some were shopping in the supermarket, some families were eating, but they all died suddenly without warning. It seemed this power outage happened so abruptly that people were caught off guard, and they all died simultaneously. Just then, a soldier was suddenly attacked while searching. Upon hearing this, his comrades immediately came to support him. The attacker had already seized the soldier's weapon and jumped directly from the 8th floor. This was something no human could do. The team members immediately broke the glass and launched a frenzied attack. Despite the dense bullets clearly hitting him, the attacker remained unscathed, as if impervious to firearms, and quickly fled the scene. Major Dolmatov sensed something lurking in the darkness and decisively ordered all team members to retreat immediately and return to base. Meanwhile, news reports continued. Public emotions started to fluctuate, and countless citizens took to the streets, anticipating the end of the world. Moscow had now become the only safe zone for humanity. In the blackout areas, all humans had died instantly. The military established a blockade at the edge of Moscow, which became humanity's last outpost. All remaining soldiers were gathered here. Marina told everyone that the situation was far more serious than they had imagined. Scientists had found the cause of death. Strangely, all civilians had died from neurotoxins secreted by their own bodies. Unfortunately, tens of thousands of reconnaissance troops, along with 80 tanks, were dispatched deep into the dark areas and suddenly all went missing. To find out the cause of the disappearance, Marina decided to reassemble a special forces team to venture into the dark areas. Faced with this unprecedented new type of warfare, not a single person backed down. Large troops quickly set off, divided into several teams to advance into the dark zone. Meanwhile, Major Dolmatov was not idle. To find out the purpose behind the deliberate attacks by countless brown bears on the outpost, Marina decided to activate a superpowered person named Sasha. Although he wasn't a superhero and couldn't move objects with his mind or bend spoons with his thoughts, Sasha's consciousness could receive mysterious data that humans couldn't decode. Perhaps this could help the army. But just then, Sasha's brain was hacked by someone named Genya, who came to deliver a message. All the terrifying events were being controlled by a deity. The first wave of attacks would destroy all electronic devices. The second wave would trigger all living beings' self-destruction. The third wave would have 160 million mind-controlled humans in the dark zone, puppets attacking the survivors in the safe zone. Before the third wave began, Sasha needed to meet someone to help find and control the deity controlling the puppets to stop this from happening. The next day, the special forces sent to explore the dark zone had found the missing reconnaissance unit, but what they saw shocked them even more. Bridges destroyed by crashed planes, tanks obliterated, turrets blown up. A city that originally had a population of 60 million was, overnight, carved out into a massive fan-shaped gap by a mysterious force. At the same time, the third wave of attacks had begun. As exploration and news reports revealed more, the public grew increasingly panicked. The 160 million survivors in the dark zone had all turned into unconscious puppets, suddenly emerging and wielding clubs, launching frenzied attacks on the army. Frankly speaking, this was a new form of warfare. The high command in the safe zone received the news but couldn't figure out what was going on. To cope with the crisis, the military decided to take the initiative. First, they dispatched another small reconnaissance team to penetrate the dark zone to locate the enemy, then send large forces to suppress the rebellion. However, the reconnaissance team had already ventured deep into the dark zone, finding nothing but ruin and death. After searching for a whole day, they found nothing. But at night, the situation changed drastically. Numerous shadowy figures wielding weapons slowly approached them. They seemed like zombies, quickly attacking the team with their weapons. The reconnaissance team could only respond defensively, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming, and they were armed with heavy weapons. Even these battle-hardened soldiers were trembling under the attack, soon suffering heavy casualties and having to urgently send out a distress signal to the outpost. Meanwhile, other regional teams were also being attacked by these human puppets. A mysterious bald man slowly removed his mask, revealing an inhuman face. Sasha, seeing this, was directly stunned. Marina, who arrived just in time, saw the unidentified person and immediately drew her gun, calling for reinforcements. Several special forces soldiers quickly surrounded the man, but he remained unflustered, closing his eyes and immediately controlling the other soldiers, making them point their guns at Marina. Marina was instantly puzzled, but what happened next made her eyes widen in terror. She saw the man turn into her own likeness. What she didn't know was that, in the soldier's eyes, she had already become an unidentified person. What on earth was going on? At this moment, the man slowly walked up to her and said that he had just given a simple demonstration of his power, which was more effective than a lengthy explanation. He then revealed a shocking secret that had been hidden for 200,000 years. In the conference room, the man told Marina that he was a higher life form from a distant galaxy. They were immortal and each had superpowers. Their main stellar resources had been depleted, and they needed to colonize a new planet. As early as 200,000 years ago, they set their sights on Earth, viewing it as their future habitat. At that time, Earth's climate was not suitable for living, and their giant colony ship would take 200,000 years to reach Earth. So, they sent a smaller ship ahead to transform the planet. There were 2 alien pioneers on this ship, one of whom was the man before her, ID, and the other was Lavrin. Their mission was to release a gene virus, and this virus was humanity. Humans were the perfect creation, modified with alien genes. Therefore, humans and aliens had many similarities. However, humans were deprived of spiritual essence and could not absorb the energy of the heavens and the earth, thus suffering birth, aging, illness, and death. But they had the ability to reproduce, spreading the virus faster. Humans also inherited the aliens' advanced intelligence, instinctively developing civilization on Earth and continuously transforming the planet. As a result, humans completed their task thousands of years early, making Earth highly suitable for the aliens. Now the time had come for the aliens to reclaim Earth. Before the arrival of the alien ship, Lavrin, following the original plan, initiated the destruction process, controlling all life on Earth through electromagnetic radiation. Since the moon had just risen, it blocked some of the electromagnetic radiation, leaving one last life zone on Earth. However, everyone in the dark zone had been controlled by Lavrin, completely losing their independent consciousness, and it wouldn't be long before they surrounded the life zone. The human counterattack process would be a process of self-slaughter, and the giant colony ship carrying millions of aliens was scheduled to land on Earth tomorrow. If the 10 war gods of the aliens also landed on Earth, the entire planet would be completely ruled by aliens. Fortunately, ID had a sudden change of heart and wished to coexist peacefully with humans, deciding to help the remaining humans through this crisis. To realize this plan, they had to find Lavrin's location and eliminate him before the colony ship arrived. Marina had no choice given the current situation. She had to trust him, and the only one who could locate Lavrin was Sasha. With his sensing abilities, ID placed his hand on Sasha's forehead, and in an instant, Sasha's sensory abilities increased 100-fold. Sasha quickly sensed Lavrin's location and swiftly sketched it on paper. ID recognized the place immediately, but Lavrin also sensed that he was being watched. Meanwhile, all the reconnaissance teams in the Dark Zone faced enemies several times their number and were collapsing across the board. The remaining small teams were barely holding on and launched signal flares, hoping for base support. At the base, everyone realized that almost all directions had sent out signal flares. Major Dolmatov saw the collective distress signals from all sides and felt powerless. With time running out, the main force prepared to set off into the Dark Zone to eliminate Lavrin. Just then, Sasha told ID that in locating Lavrin, he had also exposed his own position to avoid unnecessary trouble. ID decided to leave Sasha at the base, but the main force hadn't gone far when numerous missiles suddenly flew toward the outpost base, resulting in a fatal attack. The last human base was leveled, and the soldiers stationed there, including Sasha, were obliterated. Marina and the reconnaissance teams became the last survivors on Earth. Seeing the innocent soldiers die tragically, an enraged Marina aimed her gun at ID. However, ID calmly explained that as humanity's last hope, sacrifices had to be made. Only by creating the illusion of total annihilation could they make Lavrin lower his guard. If we had taken Sasha with us, we would all be dead now, and human civilization would be utterly destroyed, ID said. Early the next morning, the reconnaissance teams trapped in the Dark Zone gathered together. After a night of fighting, only the 4 main characters of the film and 1 injured comrade remained, and they were all out of ammunition. Just as they were at a loss, the main force arrived in time. The 3 groups merged and prepared to search for Lavrin, the puppet master, for the final showdown. On the way, ID hypnotized the others and had a private conversation with Yuri, revealing that ID had his own agenda. Not long after, as they neared their destination, they were intercepted by puppet people. The puppet people were densely packed, all lined up obediently, some even strapped with explosives, leaped from high buildings in suicide attacks. A fierce battle erupted on the puppet-filled street. The armored vehicles unleashed their strongest firepower, mowing down enemies and leaving a trail of blood and corpses. Yuri tried to rush forward and take down Lavrin but was too confident and almost got thrown off the 100-meter-tall building. ID turned around and gathered his strength in his fists, engaging in a silent hand-to-hand combat with his former friend. Expecting a dramatic superpower showdown, they were instead treated to an ordinary close-quarters brawl, but the two were evenly matched, neither able to defeat the other. Meanwhile, the main force downstairs had run out of ammunition and was finally overwhelmed when a puppet person drove a tanker truck into their position, taking out Major Dolmatov and his team with a massive explosion. The noise distracted Lavrin, giving ID seized the opportunity to give him a direct hit and rip out the controller from Lavrin's chest. ID told Yuri to finish him off, and a white phosphorus grenade was quickly shoved into Lavrin's chest. After a struggle, the puppet master alien was finally defeated. Just when everyone thought the crisis was over, ID used his superpowers to end all the puppets in an instant. The remaining members of the team reached the rooftop, but seeing ID's actions, they were all terrified. It was clear that their efforts had not saved humanity, except for the 6 of them. All humans had perished. This realization led them to question ID, who finally revealed his true intentions. He wasn't there to save humanity but had used the guise of salvation to convince them to help him find Lavrin and seize the activation device. He intended to awaken his race and become the first leader, the sole god on Earth. Leaving 3 men and 3 women alive was enough to repopulate the planet within a century. The group realized they had been his pawns, destined to become his slaves even if they survived. Upon learning the truth, a trembling Genya picked up a knife from the ground and stabbed at ID, but under ID's mental interference, accidentally killed Marina. An enraged Oleg tried to avenge her but was stopped by Yuri, who had decided to side with the alien. Olga grabbed a gun and, despite Yuri's past help and care, started shooting, successfully pinning him down. Genya, in a fit of rage, attacked again but was choked by ID, nearly suffocating. Oleg tried to shoot ID but was confused when ID transformed into his father's appearance. As Oleg hesitated, ID made everyone present appear as his father, exploiting his skill at manipulating minds. At this moment, Genya found ID's true form and jumped off the 100-meter building with him, sacrificing himself to take ID down. Surprisingly, An alien capable of healing from bullet wounds was killed by the fall. The scriptwriter's ingenuity in this plot twist was remarkable. Now only 3 humans remained, and they stood in shock as an enormous spaceship slowly descended, shattering their hopes. It was clear that the million-strong alien army had arrived, signaling the end of humanity. How could they defeat millions of aliens? Just then, the activation device reacted, and the spaceship's doors began to open. Strangely, no aliens emerged. Cautiously, the 3 approached and entered the spaceship, only to be stunned by what they saw inside. The aliens were in hibernation, millions of stasis pods neatly arranged, holding aliens who had been asleep for 200,000 years, about to awaken. How could the last 3 humans eliminate millions of sleeping aliens? Each sleeping alien possessed superpowers. If they didn't quickly find a way to deal with them, the consequences of their awakening would be unimaginable. Suddenly, the timers on the hibernation pods lit up, indicating that time was running out. Seeing that the aliens who had been asleep for 200,000 years were about to awaken, Oleg raised his gun and started shooting, and Alyona also immediately began firing. Although they could kill the aliens, there were millions of hibernation pods on the ship. Even given 10 days or half a month, they couldn't finish them all, and they didn't have enough ammunition. At this moment, Olga noticed that all the hibernation pods were connected by several large oxygen supply pipes, each connected to a large area. If one pipe was destroyed, it could potentially kill a large number of aliens, so she picked up an axe and cut through one of the pipes. Sure enough, without the oxygen supply, the aliens in the hibernation pods immediately start suffocating, struggling in pain, and soon a large area of aliens was dead inside their pods. The lights in the hibernation pods went out. Seeing this, the 3 of them quickly split up to destroy the oxygen supply systems as fast as possible, aiming to kill all the aliens. Even though it seemed unbelievable that a high-tech alien spaceship's pipes could be easily cut with an axe, this material was chosen by the aliens for its ability to transport oxidizing liquids for 200,000 years or more. Just then, Oleg noticed that the ceiling was also covered with alien hibernation pods. What were they supposed to do now? Pressed for time, he decided to kill as many as possible. After running around, he realized he didn't feel any changes in gravity, so the 3 of them continued to destroy the pipes. After a lot of effort, almost all the aliens on the ship were killed in their cradles. When Alyona reached the last pipe, she found her gun was out of bullets. She looked up at Olga, intending to borrow her axe. Olga threw it over, and after a series of gravity changes, the axe landed in front of Alyona. Alyona picked up the axe, ready to cut the pipe, but at this critical moment, she stopped. The last pipe was supplying oxygen to alien infants. Oleg arrived and tried to shoot, but Olga stopped him in time. Faced with these innocent alien infants, the 3 of them felt compassion. As the hibernation pods opened, a group of little alien bald heads slowly crawled out. Standing in front of them, the 3 looked at these pitiful little bald heads, and the kind-hearted Oleg couldn't bring himself to harm them. These were the descendants of superpowered, immortal aliens. Each alien had the power to destroy the Earth, but it was possible that the 3 of them were being mind-controlled by the little aliens, which is why they didn't act. When Alyona was about to swing the final blow, she stopped, seemingly controlled by one of the little aliens, and then saw the children in the pods. Some might wonder why an advanced civilization's spaceship would land on Earth without weapons, intelligent management, or wake-up services, and why it would open its doors as if inviting humans in for a massacre. Personally, I find the film's settings quite innovative. When aliens invaded, humans fought to protect their homeland, only to be told that they were the real invaders. Humans were actually a virus released by the aliens on Earth, the first step in their invasion plan. The next step was to control the thoughts of all life within the electromagnetic radiation range through waves. The third step involved using the mind-controlled human puppets to attack the unaffected life zones, exterminating all species or leaving some to welcome the aliens like gods. Hence the lack of security measures on the colony ship. Unexpectedly, internal strife between the 2 aliens led to the deaths of all the advanced team members, resulting in the activation key falling into human hands. The ship's doors opened automatically, humans to enter with the activation key, leading to the total annihilation of the aliens. The movie ends here. I'm a movie lover, and I welcome you to subscribe to my channel. See you next time.